Hello all, 1st of April 2018, and here you are with Dan in Essex, UK. So, spring is allegedly here. We've had some, okay weather some days, but had a lot of wet weather as well. So, certainly been an interesting start. With regards to setting seeds, I'm holding back a little bit, starting off with a lot of things a lot later than I normally would this year, simply because, we haven't had particularly warm weather for a sustained period, although that can happen in March, but didn't really happen this year. But that's just one of those things. And what I thought I'd do is give you 10 things, 10 points, which I believe are very good with regards to gardening. So maybe these could help. So the first thing is to be realistic with regards to things such as space. Now I don't mean space as in space stations and stuff. I mean space with regards to where you've got to grow. So if you live really high up in a block of flats, it's probably unlikely that you have a garden. So you might want to consider growing something on your windowsill. Think about it, it can be done. And what I'm going to do is to grow some tomatoes on a windowsill, self-fertile variety, because there's probably not pollinating insects flying around on your windowsill. But bear these things in mind, and health as well is very important with regards to growing your own food. It could be something such as, if you've got a bad back, you've got to weigh up whether digging is necessarily good for you, lifting heavy plant pots around. So weigh these things up and just think about them. And of course, access to materials. Now, I've spoke about this before, and with regards to, there's a lady that I used to know, sadly she's passed now, but several years ago, but she'd really had a tough time in her life, and her health really was, she had her struggles, and she was in a wheelchair, she had diabetes, and she'd had an amputation as well, but she still found a way that she could grow tomato plants in a raised bed, and she's in a wheelchair, and she used to go out and tend to her tomato plant. So she found a way. So if you've got difficulties, don't necessarily see it as no, you can't do it. Just think that maybe with a bit of adjustment and a bit of planning, you could have a go. So certainly think of what you're presented with and try and find a way around it if you can. Okay. So another one that I think is very important is to learn from others. So let's say, we've all got these memories, haven't we? Hopefully anyway, of when we were younger, someone in the family or a friend who managed to grow something really fantastic, and you'd go around there for Sunday dinner and they're the best runner beans you'd ever had. Find out what variety them runner beans are that person used to grow, how they used to grow them, where they used to grow them, how they tended to them, or not, as the case may be. Learn from others. You're on YouTube. You want to ask a question to me, or you want to ask a question to another YouTuber, do it. And if I don't always reply to your comments, I do apologise. I really love talking to my viewers on YouTube, but sometimes I could be better on that, so I'm trying to make sure that I do respond when people ask me questions. So don't be afraid to ask. If you want to go for a walk down a garden centre, just for a recce if you want to call it that, you go and have a look. You see someone that works there, ask them a few questions and just start the general learning process. So that's very important as well. And another thing I think is important is to grow what you like. So if you like to grow certain flowers, so let's say I'm having a go at growing geraniums this year. I really like geraniums. They're one of the flowers I really like. I like the smell of them, and I like the varieties of colours. So I'm having a go at geraniums. If you like to eat, let's say you like chips or fries, as they call them in the US. I love chips, I really do. Probably eat too many of them. Grow some potatoes and make your own chips. Make your own fries. You get the idea. Now, you want to get yourself some experience, and sometimes this can be the hardest thing, particularly if you're growing in places where with a less than ideal, you know, capability, so to speak. You know, I mentioned the high-rise flat maybe as an example, apartment, but maybe you know someone who has a decent sized garden, and maybe you could work with them on the patch of their garden and try and grow something there, and you share the results of the produce. You could look at a community garden. So just try to get a little bit of experience, and as you would cultivate a seed, a cutting, learn to cultivate your own learning, because it's an ongoing process, and you'll find the more you do, the more there is to learn. And you know, you could live for 1,000 years and you wouldn't know everything. So just start that process off. Now, this is one thing that I myself certainly did when I really got into gardening a long time ago. Get overzealous. Don't get overzealous. You know, it's very easy to go down the garden centre, down the, what do you call it, DIY shop, and particularly like myself, you go down the bargain places and you see seeds everywhere, and you think, you know, seed packets, and you suddenly think, oh, I'll try that, I'll try that, I'll try that, I'll try that, I'll try that. Before you know it, you've got absolutely, man, potentially thousands of seeds, and you'd find you haven't got the time to sow them, you haven't got anywhere to put them once they've germinated, and you don't know anyone else who wants your excess crop of whatever you've grown. So don't get overzealous. Find something and have a go at it and make it work. Quality over quantity. Okay, another one is be prepared for things to not go according to plan. This could be such a simple thing as you set something and the weather's bad, you know, or you do something along the lines that I did last year. You remember my brassicas, although they did recover because I was pulling the caterpillars off by hand, I didn't cover them thoroughly enough, and the crop got absolutely ravaged by the cabbage butterflies. So be prepared for things to happen. Even if you sometimes cover them up, maybe you didn't put tight enough netting on, maybe the wind blew the netting off. Just be prepared for it and look at it as an experience. If excuse me, if that happens. I mean, if you check out a video on YouTube called Horrible Peach Leaf Curl, you will find a video that I uploaded a few years ago of a peach tree that I put outside to grow and didn't make any effort to, you know, reduce the chance of getting peach leaf curl. And what happened? Got peach leaf curl. So, you know, there was me trying to reinvent the wheel. I knew about the dangers of peach leaf curl. I'd been told about it by someone very knowledgeable. I'd read about it, but I thought that I could, you know, prove them wrong. It didn't happen, and the tree had to come out. I wasted the 30 odd quid's worth of investment into it, and you know, it's upsetting when you've planted a tree and you have to rip it out. So, but you have to be prepared for it. So you need to learn what grows well in your conditions. So just think about what grows well where you live. So for example, if you're living in a tropical climate, you know, I've spent time in Southeast Asia, and mangoes, where I went, grew incredibly well. Mangoes wouldn't grow out here, you know, in the UK weather outside. I'm sure that if you created their ideal environment in a big greenhouse or something, then, you know, you could do okay. I believe the one at Kew Gardens managed to get a mango off of that a few years ago. But learn what grows well in your climate and your conditions. Quite important. Although there is room for experimentation, as you know that you know, I've grown certain things over here that aren't normally grown here. But all in all, learn what grows well where you are and try and master that first before you go on to things maybe a bit more exotic. And the thing that I think is good is to learn about crops that will give you a good return on what you sow. So, for example, something very tried and tested. So, potatoes, this is in a climate such as the UK, potatoes, runner beans, broad beans, brassicas, apples, plums, cherries, I could go on and on. So have a go at things that are very tried and tested. And I think that's, things that are going to give you just a good return on what you put in. For example, if you put courgette plants in, as long as you plant them at the right time of year, etc., you generally know you'll get some courgettes from it. But maybe if you have a go at something along the lines of, let me think of something that might not give you the best return. Here we go. I've grown watermelons here, and although it was largely a giggle, one reason is I do like watermelons, but secondly I wanted to see what was possible with regards to them. But as well as growing them, I also made sure I had plenty of other things that nothing is guaranteed with regards to growing your own, but more likely to give a return for your time, your money, and the effort above all, because it is hard work. And another one is to actually eat what you grow, because the amount of people, myself included, you end up growing stuff, and quite often you don't make the time to go and pick it and prepare it, and the runner beans hanging there, they go all stringy, things like that. Your potatoes, you end up leaving a lot of them in the ground. Your tomatoes, they ripen and you don't pick them. So actually, eat what you grow, and if you're growing flowers, actually take a bit of time to enjoy them. Smell the lovely flowers that you're growing. Just take a bit of time out. And the next point sort of goes back to the not being overzealous and the getting experience and the being realistic and the learning. It kind of puts them all together. But one thing I think is very important is don't try and do too much too soon. So for instance, you take over an allotment, and if you're taking over an allotment, you might think, whoa, there's a lot of work there, and quite often there is. If it's been neglected for a long time and the councils or whatever haven't trimmed it back, trimmed it, whatever, you could end up with stinger nettles up here. Oh, now there are certain rules generally, allotments, certain rules that there are with regards to keeping an allotment, but at the same time, I think there's a certain amount of soil has to be overturned and free of weeds. But don't try and say, I'm going to get this allotment round really quickly, and I'm going to be down there, and I'm going to be 2 hours every night, and after work I'm going to be down there digging away and chopping away. Think of a bit and do a little bit at a time, and get that going, and get that productive, and get that so that the maintenance is lower on that. So that bit's done. All you got to do is give it the occasional weed, during the growing season. And then maybe you'll think of getting the next bit round, and then the next bit round. So just a little bit of, the slow and steady approach. Of course, if you've got all the time in the world and the good health and everything to do it and the will, go ahead. But don't do too much too soon and get despondent. And at the end of the day, you've got to remember that a lot of this it's about enjoying it and having fun. Because for the majority of people that grow their own food, it's a hobby. They've got their own reasons for doing it. Maybe they've got a sedentary job and they get no exercise at work, and they don't necessarily want to go down the gym or go out running or something, and they take on an allotment for the exercise. Maybe people want to do it because They want to know what goes into their food with regards to, you know, sprays and things. Maybe they want to continue heirloom varieties of certain things, such as apples and traditional varieties of plants. Strawberries, I believe there's a variety called Royal Sovereign, which is a traditional variety of strawberry. So people have got their reasons for it. Now, it might be something simple as you just love growing food for you, your friends and your family. And of course, you know, the bees appreciate it, nature appreciates it. You know, the caterpillars appreciated my brassicas last year. So I suppose one could take a bit of solace in that. So there you go. There's some of the points about gardening, and you know, certain things I think might be helpful to you. So take care and speak soon.